Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Sorry, I just always want to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Wrestling Diaries, the podcast show for the average Joe, finding out like the extraordinary stories that just regular people in society have and what they struggle with and what they wrestle with. And today, my guest is Kirk Winstein from Crowbar. He found the fountain of youth, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this is Clint Spain, who is a gentleman here from Alabama, from right here in Birmingham, or you're originally from Bessemer, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bessemer, Alabama, and he's into heavy metal, martial arts, and massage. Clint, thanks for being here, man.
What's up, man?
So I know a lot of people are probably wondering this because I'm wondering it. Maybe a lot of people aren't, but how does somebody who were you born and bred in like this in Birmingham and Bessemer area?
Sort of. Like my mom's from Birmingham, Bessemer area. My dad's from New Orleans. So I grew up in New Orleans and Alabama.
Okay, that's the affinity for the sludge music.
Yeah.
Anybody's wonder what sludge music is? Slow Southern metal. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Basically. Okay, so so what's the story? Like your dad moved here from New Orleans and then met your mom? Or?
Yeah, most of his family's all from Birmingham and then or from New Orleans, and they moved up here, and then my mom and dad met here in Birmingham, and they had me.
Okay.
And then my mom and dad split, and my dad moved back down to New Orleans. My mom stayed here in Birmingham, so custody and
Sure.
I'll go hang out in New Orleans a little bit and come back to Birmingham.
Now, so you've lived the majority of your life here, though,
Yeah,
correct?
majority is Birmingham.
Okay. So how did you get into martial arts and stuff like that, man? How does that play out?
When I was like 5 years old, I went to like a junior scholastic like thing in school. You know where they like sell books and
Sure, yeah.
and they had a Chuck Norris book, and
Nice.
and I thought it was really cool.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, I always wanted to do Chinese martial arts. Nothing else really appealed to me at like 5 years old. Like, this is weird. Like, how many 5-year-olds know the difference? You know.
Sure, yeah.
And when my mom would try to put me in taekwondo or karate and stuff like that, and I'm like, no, mom, it's gotta be Chinese. And she's like, what, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just kept holding out, and as I grew into adulthood, I started getting into like Bruce Lee and Jet Li and Jackie Chan and all that stuff, you know.
Nice.
And I was working at a Little Caesars Pizza over here in Bessemer.
Okay.
And
How old were you at this time?
I was 16, going from 16 to 18 in that range. And I was working with this chick named Bridget, and one day, just general conversation, I said that I'm interested in studying in Chinese martial arts, and I had been getting books and I've been reading and stuff. And she was like, well, my husband is doing Chinese martial arts. And I was like, what? So fast forward like maybe a year, and this guy comes in. And at the time, I was a really small guy. I was maybe like 160 pounds soaking wet, you know. And this guy comes in, looks more like I do now.
Okay.
Walks in, shaved head, beard, tattoos, really big guy.
Okay.
And he's like, so which one of you sissies want to do Chinese martial arts?
I love it.
And I was like, that'd be me, you know. And yeah, I went, and my first class, I got my ass kicked really bad, and I never quit. He quit, and his whole, like, when I started, I was a complete white belt.
The guy that was the big tough guy quit.
Yeah, and he quit. He wound up blowing out his knees, blowing out his ankle, breaking ribs, and all this stuff.
Did he compete?
He didn't really compete as much. It's just Chinese martial arts done right is really hard, and it's really hard on your body. And if you don't take the time to recover, you can really hurt yourself. And he wasn't doing that. He wasn't giving himself healing time or whatever. Yeah, it just got really rough, and it wound up like all those guys quit, and I just stayed. And I would just stay, you know, no matter what like obstacles they threw in my way, like because like I think at one point my shifu wanted me to quit. I think he was just kind of done with it, but he would never admit that. But I think he was just kind of done with it, or maybe he was just seeing what I had. But he would call me up like random. It'd be like 3 o'clock in the morning. He'd be like, "Hey, I just got done my." He was a doctor at UAB, and he was like, he would call me up like, "I just finished my residency. Meet me at the soccer park at 3 o'clock in the morning." And then he'd kick my ass, just throw me on the ground, and they'd be like, "All right, man, have a good day." And then
He's
he'd
the doctor who
leave.
should have taken care of you
Yeah,
after that.
and he did that for a while. And then one day I walked into his kung fu school after about 10 years of training with him, and he threw me a shifu training uniform. And was like, "Put this on," and I almost cried. And 5 years later, I take my national shifu test in front of the international people and the Grandmaster Shun, and 10 hours later, I was a shifu.
Wow. So what's the specific discipline that you're talking about here in this martial art?
8-step praying mantis.
8-step praying mantis.
And in Chinese, it's Babu Tanlang Chan.
Oh.
But
Say that again.
Babu Tanlang Chan.
Babu Tangno.
So Ba is 8,
Ba.
Bu is step, Halang
Talang.
means mantis, and Chan means like
Talang.
closed fist. But that's the main discipline. But its roots go all the way back to like Xingyi and Bagua, and it has a lot of internal parts to it, and it's a complete system. So we have like punches and kicks, but we also have close range like elbows and knees. We do joint locks. We have throws, and we have ground fighting. But what makes us different from most martial arts is we also have acupuncture. We have Chinese massage. We do herbs, stuff like that.
I'm assuming because you are a massage therapist also, I'm assuming that's kind of how you transition in that as well, based on
Yeah,
your martial arts,
yeah,
massage and stuff.
Well, I was trying to be in a band, and I was failing miserably at it, and I was putting off education. And my shifu was like, "You can't be a bum your whole life. You got to get a job." And I was like, "Okay, I guess that makes sense."
Sure.
So he was like, "Do something that you like to do. You like working out." So, and he's like, and you like doing the massage and stuff. I was already kind of getting into the internal stuff, like the Tai Chi and stuff. And he's like, "Why don't you do something like that?" And I was like, "Okay." So I started looking into schools and whatnot, and Chinese medicine and acupuncture, massage just kind of felt like something I should do. So I went ahead and went to school for it, and which actually turned out to be a blessing later in my music career, allowing me to be able to tour and play shows, whatever.
Yeah, so my mom, I don't know if you knew this about me or not, but I've said this the last time. People are like, "Oh, he's bringing this up again." But my mom is from Vietnam, and so I'm half Asian. And I remember like when she had gotten a divorce from my stepdad, and we had moved into this new house in Bessemer on the hill. She used to do we have this deck outside, and it's on this high platform. The sun comes in like right through these trees, and she like really early in the morning. I don't know, maybe it's like 5 or 6, and sometimes if I woke up earlier, before my alarm for school, I'd look for her because she always made me breakfast and stuff, and she would be out there and she would be doing Tai Chi, man, and right like in the sunrise, and it was so beautiful, and like this was kind of her way like to be by herself and to do this, and I guess coping with the divorce and all this stuff. And I just remember and it's funny because I was always very active, very talkative, and if my mom was doing something, I'd be like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, I gotta get ready for school or something. But every time I ever saw her do Tai Chi, I never interrupted her just because I was fascinated. And that's like the one time I wouldn't be like, Mom, come on, because she was always really good with time. But it was just a really beautiful art thing just to see her do that, and like in the silhouette of the sun, like, oh, just almost talking about it now almost gets me choked up thinking about it. But yeah, man, I've never really so you've like went through like full systems. I've like moonlighted doing martial arts through my life. I've never stuck with anything. I did a little bit of karate when I was younger with my friend Thomas. I did a little bit of taekwondo, and then as I got older, I took and then I did this a little bit more extensively. But a buddy of mine that I used to work with, he had got into this. I guess it was an MMA gym. They said they did Krav Maga, but the Krav Maga they did wasn't really authentic. And then they cross trained in Muay Thai and then Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And so me and him, we used to do that, and we would have we'd do Thai boxing on like Tuesdays, and then Thursdays we would roll doing Jiu Jitsu, and that stuff was excellent, man. Yeah. And I don't know, I just love like martial arts and stuff like that because I feel like it's beautiful, but then it teaches you about like discipline and struggle. to make you better and make you stronger, like mentally and
Right.
physically.
Yeah, I would 100% say that. Well, my Shifu, according to a saying that he would always say, he says,
What? Hold on, real quick. You're saying sifu?
Shifu.
Shifu. What
Yeah.
does that mean?
It translates into Chinese, from Chinese to English.
Shifu.
It means like instructor,
Okay.
master, like father, because like fu is like father in Chinese. But yeah, it's he coined a term. Everyone needs in a little kung fu. Which the word kung fu in Chinese means like hard work over time. So anything
Right.
you have a skill at that you put a lot of time and discipline into is kung fu. So, but yeah, like I would 100% say that like my
Work ethic.
ethic and load and all that stuff straight comes from Chinese martial arts, because he caught me at such a young age.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been studying A step now over 20 years,
Yeah.
and it's all from that.
So does 8-step does it use the belt system like other martial arts? Like you start out white and then you go to black as a master.
Yeah. Well, so see, okay, so with Chinese martial arts, we have the Americanized version and then you have the traditional Chinese version. So with all Chinese martial arts, you have what's called an indoor and outdoor student. An outdoor student is going to be your sash guys and your people you teach, but you don't teach them like all the secrets, right? And then the indoor students are your like number one dude that's going to take in your lineage. So with us, you have the belting system, which is our sash students, and it's just like karate. You go yellow, green, blue, red, all the way up to your black belt, and you can get to silver Mantis 5. But you can't become an instructor in our system unless you're asked into the instructor program. And from there, you go all the way back to 1, and you start Gold Mantis 1, Gold Mantis 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then there, the Shifu will tell our Grandmaster that they're prepared to test, and then we'll wait to our national meeting every year, find out what location it's going to be, because it's at a different place every single year. And then you go and test in front of a group of Shifus and the Grandmaster, and that's how you become an instructor. But you can't be an instructor just because you want to be one. So you have to really show that you have what it takes to be an instructor. And most Shifus, they look at things other than just your sheer ability to kick ass. Like they look at things like, are you able to teach other people? Do you have that discipline to one, be accountable for yourself and show up every single time and on time, and then can you convey your technique in a way that they can understand? And teaching's not for everybody, and everybody thinks it is, but it really isn't. It doesn't really matter the title of Shifu if you can't apply your techniques to. So like I know I have students of mine that could kick a lot of I know's asses physically, but it's just the mental stuff, and that's the highest level of Chinese martial arts is where it gets the mental.
So fascinating. Like, do you know where 8-step praying mantis, like, where did it originate from? Like, what part of China, or who developed it?
Yeah, it's northern China, and it's the northern Shaolin Temple. Our lineage goes directly all the way to the Shaolin Temple. Wang Long is the first praying mantis martial arts person. From there, it breaks off into 2 different systems: Plum Flower and 7-Star. Our lineage goes from 7-Star, and basically 7-Star. All praying mantis up until 7-Star and Plum Flower, their footwork is based off of monkey style footwork from the Shaolin Temple, and that stuff was great for young 20-year-olds. But when you get older, some of the postures are just impossible for older men to hold. So out of sheer necessity, they started looking at internal martial arts like Xingyi and Bagua. We get the 8 from the Bagua system. A lot of our footwork is based off of Bagua, and our system's based off of angles and set up to fight multiple opponents at once. A lot of turning, a lot of spinning, but not like flippy. It's not an agile martial art at all. It's fast moving, but it's not agile. It's not like a monkey style where you're doing backflips and stuff. And it has a lot more internal components like with Xingyi. And that's where it changed. That's where the 8-step came from. Because then you can do a system all the way into your old age. And if you slow the the forms down Tai Chi esque, get the same benefits as Tai Chi form.
So, what are the 8 steps? Can I ask that, or is that like a
Yeah,
secret?
well, they are actually technically
Are they secret?
they're
Okay.
technically a secret, but the way I look at it is, I go by the philosophy of Lao Tzu that all secrets are still secrets, even if you tell the person, until they can apply them to themselves.
Good point.
So I could tell you, and you're still like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But there's you have 8 short steps and 8 long and 8 short steps. Most Chinese martial arts, the thing is that they hide their steps in their kicking forms. So if you learn the kicking techniques, and then practice them and realize that the kicking isn't just a kick; it's also how you step. And think about how people in rural China back like before modernization with like lawnmowers, right? How they would step through plains of grass, looking like getting away from a snake or things like that. You'll start seeing the steps, and then that's really the bread and butter is when you learn how to move a certain way. And a lot of the steps are also hidden in our sets, in our forms, but you wouldn't recognize them unless I pointed them out to you. You'll think it, and a lot of times they look really goofy until I point them out and show you how to actually step with them. And that's one of the things that's always irked me with a lot of people when it comes to Chinese martial arts. They're taking the form as face value, and they're not looking at it like deeper in and getting what is the practicality of it. Because when it gets really practical, it's not as flashy and fluttery as it may appear.
Yeah, I think it's because of all the movies, right?
It is,
all these
yeah.
movies, so people see people do it. They're like, "Oh, karate, so you can beat me up," and that's kind of the mindset people take into
Right.
this. But I know what you're saying by that,
Right.
about going a lot different. It's philosophy too, It's
Yes.
like a belief system and,
Yeah.
and all that. Even I guess you could argue that it's very spiritual, right?
It can be if you wanted that out of it.
Mhm.
It can totally do that for you. Tai Chi, especially Tai Chi,
Oh,
Bagua,
yeah.
Xingyi, those things, the internal martial arts. And with Tai Chi, the thing that really has always irked me with Tai Chi, I call it hippie Tai Chi, which is what you see here in the West a lot. And with Tai Chi, it's based off what the West called the yin yang, but in Chinese, it's actually Tai Chi. That's the symbol. So, and so and it's based off the Tai Chi symbol is the philosophy of Taoism. So it's telling the story of the Tao through physical representation. That's how stories are passed down in China, through poems and songs and things, right? So the hippie Tai Chi guys only do the yin part of the Tai Chi, but they don't do the yang part of the Tai Chi, which is the fighting. They don't do the explosive movements. They don't do the exercises that people kind of actually do, especially like Chin style Tai Chi. In our system, we teach the yang or the yin part to the public for health, because it really is good for health. It's great for your ligaments, it's great for your joints. It's great for lowering blood pressure, all those things, just like yoga. But there's also the martial arts part, which is really fierce. Most of it's fast wrestling. It's more closely when you get into the martial arts.
So it's
side
like
of it.
grappling.
Yeah, it's more closely like judo and jiu-jitsu kind of combined with like quick snaps of like joints. One of the Chinese poems for Tai Chi is elbows break like chicken bones. You don't hear that when you're like underneath the tree and they're like, let's get mellow. You don't hear the chicken bone part.
Yeah, sure. That's hence the hippie
Yeah.
part that you're saying.
Yeah.
That's so funny, man.
Yeah. So I hate how the Tai Chi has gotten a bad rap in the U.S. Like, a lot of people don't understand it, like what it really is. If you saw like Tai Chi in like real movements, you'd be like, okay, feels like you're just wrestling someone. Like it looks almost like Greco-Roman wrestling almost.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it's a lot of stuff like that, and you're like, that's not Tai Chi, but it is. That's what those moves really are for.
Have you ever had to use your discipline in a real life situation, like to fight someone or defend yourself?
A few times. I think the funniest time though was I was staying with my mom over here in Bessemer, and her house had been getting broken into quite often, and she could never figure out how they were doing it. And so one day she left, and she told me before she was leaving, she said, "Hey, your brother's coming over to put a new stove in the kitchen. So if he comes in, that's who it is." I was like, okay, cool. So I'm laying there asleep. All the cars are gone. So the person breaking in thought that the house was empty. And apparently, I guess they had gotten used to my mom's guard dogs, and because neither one of the dogs were barking. So this makes me think my brother. So I'm hearing all this scraping and all this crazy metal noises, and I'm like, God, he's really tearing this kitchen apart. But I thought, okay, I'm gonna sneak in here and scare the out of him. So I get up real quick, I throw my clothes on, and I sneak into the living room, see this crackhead holding my mom's air conditioning unit in his hands.
Oh my God.
And he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and we're like, And so then I just, he starts to run for the door with the air conditioning unit.
Wow. Okay.
And I jump over the couch, and I do like a tie kick, like what movie tie, like tie kick, right? Right into the leg, and it makes him fall, and he drops the air conditioning into the couch, and goes for the door, but the door is opening from to the inside, right? So his foot, in his panic, his foot is in the way of him opening his own door. So he keeps hitting the door with his own foot, and it gives me enough time to get to him. And so it's funny how, like, in real life, how things happen versus how things would play in your head. And so in real life, the first thing I thought was a basic day one front kick. So I kick this dude in his back, but he goes flying through the door, like all the way through it. Like the door,
Christ.
my mom's door is like it's a flimsy door, but he went flying through the whole door, and I went chasing after him, and he was running down the steps on his hands. And this dude, like,
you don't have video of this, do you?
No, it's crazy because like he was like a gazelle. In like one move, he jumps into headfirst into this big red van that's sitting outside in front of my house, and they just peel tires. And so I call the police, everything, and I tell them, I was like, what they look like. I thought that was that. Fast forward like a week later, my mom used to be a police officer. So she knows a lot of.
Who did she work for?
She worked for Lipscomb, which is
my sister's a dispatcher for Lipscomb.
Okay, yeah. My mom started as a dispatcher, then she went on to being. But anyways, so she knows a lot of police officers, and my next door neighbor was a police officer in Bessemer. So, we knew some people, and my mom happened to run into one of her friends who happened to be the guy who came out to the call, and she asked him, have you heard anything else about my air conditioning? He goes, funny you ask. Actually, the guy your son kicked through the door had to go to the hospital. So we arrested him later that day because we found him and his his van full of air conditioners.
Oh my God, dude, that is such a hilarious story.
I thought that was pretty. It was probably the funniest one. All the other ones are kind of more just sad, like people pulling guns and stuff.
Oh really?
Yeah, I've had a couple people pull guns on me, like just dumb, like drunken stuff,
like at a party or something.
Yeah, like and like people getting drunk and wanting to try you. I used to get that a lot, like
because they knew what you could.
Yeah,
do. I don't understand why.
Yeah, like they take an MMA class and they're like, hey, the only other funny story that was I was at the Omov house one night. This random dude came over and he had been drinking a lot, and he had just started Spartan Fitness, talking about how badass he was and all this stuff. And he kept telling me multiple times throughout the night, my kicks are lethal. And I was just like, right on, that's cool. Awesome. I'm glad you have lethal kicks, dude. I'm trying to hang out with my friends. I don't really care about this.
Yeah. Plus you're like a really chill guy.
Yeah, and so I just told him, I said, well, look, man, if you want to spar or work out sometime, I'm more than happy to hang out with you. Here's my card. Come to my gym, and we can
market
work out.
it to him right there.
Yeah, sell. And so I didn't think nothing of it. I thought he would never come. I just thought he was just being drunk and a guy. But 2 or 3 days later, he comes to my school, full gear, shin guards, teeth, mouthpiece, ready to whoop some ass, And so we shut down the school, and I sparred this guy, and I tapped him out 3 different times. He left the school. 2 days later, he comes back to enroll in my school.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The people at Spartan Fitness should be pissed right now. They're watching this.
But other than that, like,
that's wow, dude. That's incredible, man. It's crazy that you've actually had a gun pulled on you. That's pretty scary stuff, man.
It is, but I don't know. It is, but it's weird. Like when you it's weird. I can't explain it. Stuff slows down. Like the stuff when you start getting
like the Matrix.
Kinda, yeah. Stuff slows down a little bit. You start seeing I wasn't really feared for my life with this guy because I didn't feel like he was really going to shoot me. I felt like he was more trying to scare me with the gun, and I felt like you could see in his face he didn't really want to go there. He was just trying to intimidate.
Understand people. It's so weird. The thing that you were talking about though about the guy that was training at the MMA gym, it's so funny. I've always like found that like for people that really are just badass, they don't go around like, oh, I could do all this and say all that. Like you would never know unless you actually saw them in action, or they're at a gym, they're working out or whatever. But they don't go around and like generally are like, yeah, look at what I can do, or I can beat you up and stuff. They don't do that. And so then the guys I feel like that do that, they're just doing that like male like peacocking thing, right?
So bad.
Because
so
like
bad.
they're projecting their own insecurities out in
Right.
the world.
Right.
So I've
Yeah.
always found that so silly.
Yeah, and it's like it also, I think it comes from people not actually having been punched in the face before.
Right.
Because if you get punched in the face, you don't really want to do that. It doesn't matter how like much discipline or technique you've done, being punched in the face sucks. And when I first started martial arts, this is probably the best story I've ever did. I was about 3 years into 8-step, and I thought I was Bruce Lee, like straight up. I thought I was the most baddest dude on the block. Sure. I was in great shape. I was 23 years old. You know, I could do like 400 push-ups in one sitting. You know, and so like my instructor saw how big my ego was getting. Like it was getting to the point where it couldn't fit inside the gym. You know, and so he was like, "Hey man, I got this martial arts tournament for you. Do you want to go get knocked out?" I thought he was joking, but he really meant, do you want to get... So anyways, I go, yeah, I want to do it. So he takes me to this tournament. It was a Yama Karate over in Homewood. They had this big tournament, full contact tournament. Those guys, they eat, sleep, and breathe tournaments. They are badass at what they do.
Right. They're always competing.
They are awesome. Like, awesome. If I ever had a kid, I'd put him in Yama Karate. But anyways, those dudes are amazing. And so my ego and my inexperience and all of this stuff, I go in there thinking I'm just Bruce Lee. So I didn't know how tournaments worked. I didn't know how any of that stuff worked. So they pair you with the guy you're going to fight with. And the guy I'm fighting with shakes my hand, but he is like cool as a cucumber. Got his headphones on. His karate gi is like loosely tied with his black belt. He looks like Ryu, like abs like crazy. And he's just pacing, just listening to his music, pacing, getting in the zone, ready to kick my face in. And I'm social butterflying around the gym, shaking hands, thinking I'm just too cool for school. I don't even have my cup yet. And so we get ready for the fight. And
did you get the cup?
Did not get the cup. So my sister and them are on the way to come back to
I know
get
how
the
the
cup.
story's about to go, Matt.
And I go in there and the guy says fight, and I kick the dude in the leg, and he looks at me like I'm a joke. And so then I punch him, and then next thing I know, I go flying across the mat diagonally. And you ever seen the movie Snatch, where Brad Pitt gets knocked out and he falls in the water?
Yes.
That's exactly how it feels. I went straight plunging into this water. I was completely knocked out. And I come to, and my instructor's over top of me laughing his ass off. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I go, "That hurt." And I got up. I don't have a back molar in the back of my mouth anymore because the dude kicked my molar out of my mouth. My whole
just hit you with a straight roundhouse?
Yeah, my whole front of my uniform is covered in blood. I'm like staggering trying to get off the mat. For the next 5 years, every time I went to my instructor's house to watch an MMA match, he'd turn the TV on and it'd be that video that he recorded me get knocked out. And he'd be like, "Let's watch this real quick." And it just put me in such a better mindset of knowing that you're not badass and that everybody, you know, there's always going to be that one person there that's a little bit more tough, more badass than you. And what's it all about? You know, like you get out of the fighting aspect of it real quick. You start learning that there's way more to martial arts than just,
right, punch. Yeah. Like, yeah. I mean, what you're saying is getting punched. I've gotten punched in the face several times. I didn't like it. Wouldn't want to repeat it. But there's something very humbling.
Right.
It like really puts perspective on real life in front of you. Like whatever you piss and moan about, you get punched in the face legitimately. Yeah. All that stuff just evaporates.
Yeah.
And like reality really hits. It's like in Fight Club when he's like, "I want you to hit me as hard as you can." And the guy's like, "What are you talking about? That's crazy." He's like, "No, it's not." He's like, "I don't want to die without any scars." He's like, "You ever been in a fight?" He's like, "No, but that's a good thing." He's like, "No, it's not." He's like, how can you know yourself if you've never know yourself truly if you've never been in a fight?" And I'm not promoting anybody to go out and get in a fight, but it's just it's the philosophy there. It's just
Right.
the concept of like the humblingness of that stuff. It's man, it's not pleasant. That's crazy though. So
Yeah.
did you do any more competitions after that?
I did for a little bit, but it was short lived. Because I wound up getting injuries like hardcore. I fractured the third vertebrae in my neck, and I tore cartilage from my knee to my hip, and I broke a lot of fingers, toes, and stuff like that. And I got a scar on my knee from a guy's teeth in my knee.
He's like biting your knee.
No, I kneed him in the face,
Oh,
and his teeth came through the
oh my
plate into
god,
my
dude.
into my knee. But all that stuff just really turned me off. It's not my bag. I don't really like all that stuff.
Yeah, when I was cross training and doing like very mild, watered down Krav Maga with now the Thai boxing we were doing was actually pretty legit, and the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was really good. We were getting trained by a purple belt. He was really good. He was very smart, very philosophical about the things. I remember the first time I rolled. And this is the first time I'd ever rolled, ever tried jujitsu, and I'm in there and I'm super aggressive and I'm grunting and I'm like my muscles are flexed, and then he stopped, like, and I was like over the guy, but the instructor stopped me. He's like, dude, whoa, what are you doing, bro? This isn't wrestling. You're not wrestling. Like, this is jujitsu, man. You gotta flow, brother. He's like, this is. He's like, man, this is more intellectual than it is physical. He's like, it's about leverage and technique. He's like, this is how like a 150-pound guy can tap out like a 265-pound guy. He's like, you gotta just be cool, relaxed. And I was like, okay. And then it started like it was implementing this like mindset, and I was like, okay. And I started looking at it differently. And then like as I was learning and I was rolling more, like I kind of started getting that fluidity in there. I don't remember where I was going with the story now. Um, anyway, yeah, back to you. I don't remember where I was going with the story. I just completely just blanked out just now. Maybe I took too many shots to the head. Oh, okay. The story was, so I was doing all that, and me and my buddy Matt. If he watches this, shout out to Matt Holder. He actually is a Krav Maga instructor now. I think he has a gym in Mountain Brook, if I'm not mistaken. I used to train with him doing that afterwards, but that's like another story. But at the time we were doing that. And this guy was like Johnny Intense, like nobody's business. I remember like we were doing the Thai boxing, and you're up here, and you bring the fist out and you come back to your face for the guard. And he was so intense. He like hit him his like I remember like doing the drills, coming back. And then he looked at me and he's like, Mitchell, do I have a black eye? And I was like, huh, what do you and he had a black eye. Because when he came back, punched himself in the eye. And this is how this guy was intense. But he would roll with the jiu-jitsu instructor, and he would tap him out. He did neck crank on him once, and the instructor had been doing jiu-jitsu for many years. I don't know how many years he had trained up into getting the purple belt or whatever, but he was really good. He knew what he was talking about. And Matt was still a white belt, I think. Maybe I don't know if he had. Yeah, I think he was still a white belt, but he was just so athletic. Like he's broad shoulders. He's about my height, but he probably weighs like I don't know 180, 90 pounds of like just muscle. And he actually would tap out the instructor, and it was pretty crazy. So the instructor was like, he's like, man, you've got a great physical tenacity for this. He was like, what would you think about doing cage fighting? Because the instructor actually did some amateur cage fighting stuff. And so my buddy Matt, he started training. He was doing a lot of cage fit stuff and rolling a lot more and training in Thai boxing a lot. And leading up to his first fight, it was going to be some amateur bout in like Tuscaloosa or something like that. He ended up he rolled on his ankle real bad, like he sprained it real bad. He got like a grade 2 sprain on his ankle. It swelled up super big, and so he had to like he couldn't do the fight then because his ankle was jacked up. So he was rehabbing and all that, and he was going to get ready to get back into it because he wanted to. He just he's aggressive and he just wanted to get into it. And then sometime after that, he just kind of as he sat there and he just thought about things, recovering from this injury, and he was just like, I just don't. He's like, he had this conversation with me. He's like, because I asked him, I was like, when are you gonna try to get back into fighting or whatever? And he's like, man, I don't think I'm gonna do it. And I was like, oh yeah, you scared? And he was like, dude, I'll kick your ass. I was like, I'm just kidding, don't kick my ass. But he was like, the more I started thinking about it, it's just not really. I want to do this because of the discipline aspect, the fitness, and then for just self-defense. Like I want to be able to handle myself, protect me, protect my family in a situation that calls for that. But he was like, as far as like sport fighting and fighting for money, he's like, it's just not my bag. And he's like, and I no nothing against any people that do that or whatever. He's like, but he's like getting injured. He's like in the beginning, I was super upset. I'm super OCD. I was training super hard. I knew that like my first fight, I was gonna run through him, and he might have because this guy was a Tasmanian. If you ever meet him in real life, he's super cool, super chill like you, fun loving guy. But he is a Tasmanian devil, dude. I know because I've sparred with the guy. My jaw still aches, and this is from wearing headgear also. But he just realized it just just wasn't his thing. It's not how he wanted to represent himself, and so he just kind of ended up bowing out. And then sometime after that, he left that gym, and I had kind of fallen out of contention with it too. I don't remember what happened at the time, but he looked into Krav Maga because he realized the Krav Maga that we were learning from that gym was not authentic, and he found a course that he took in Florida that was IKMF, which is International Krav Maga Federation, which is in like that's what they do in Israel. And for anybody that's wondering, Krav Maga is an Israeli martial arts. Krav Maga stands for contact combat in Hebrew. And like if you get certified, you can go over to Israel and get into like you can go into like the military base and then like their embassy or something like that. He was telling me about all this, like with the certifications. And so me and him kind of fell out of touch for a couple years, which made me sad. And then he looked me up some years later, and he was like, "Hey man," he's like, "Actually, I'm certified in as a Krav Maga instructor." He's like, "You should come. I'm trying to open a gym." He's like, "I'd love for you to come train with me." And he's like, "We worked together before." He's like, you can help me progress through my phases." And so I started doing that a little bit. I'll never forget one day we were doing a drill at a high school football field, and I was helping train him, and he was going into the advanced mode because he was learning like weapons defenses, and he had all these props. He had like a prop 9mm, and he got it off of like some cop website. So it was made out of rubber, but the density, the weight, and all that was exactly the same of like an actual 9mm. And so like we went through the drills. I'd pull the gun on him, and he would disengage me. And I remember it was around dusk, and the security guard drove up.
Yeah.
And so he's seeing these two guys, and he's seeing one holding a silhouette of a gun, yelling, because I was I was trying to be realistic. I was like, "Give me your money now," And he's like, "Hey!" He's like yelling from across the parking lot. He's like, "Hey!" While I'm holding this fake gun on my friend. He's like, "Hey, what are y'all doing over there?" And then me being a smart ass, I go, "Oh, it's all right. I'm just robbing this guy." And the man was like, "Dude, shut the hell up. What are you doing?" He's like, "No, sir. We're doing martial arts. It's a fake dummy gun. I can bring it and show it to you." And he was like, no. He's like, "All right, just stay there. It's cool. Y'all do martial arts. That's fine. Just, you need to clear out after it gets dark." And he was like, "Yeah, we'll finish up, sir, and we'll be out." He's like, "Dude, why would you do that? Why would you say that to that guy? What if he had a gun?" I was like, "Well, But, anyways, sorry, I just got into a tangent about this. But my point is that, yeah, my friend, just like with you, he realized that, trying to compete and fight just wasn't his thing. It's not what he wanted to do martial arts for. And even now he's doing it. He's training people. That's what he does, and he's teaching his little kids. He's got his little kids doing Krav Maga. But Krav Maga is pretty tough stuff, man. Yeah. It's have you ever cross trained in a different martial arts besides 8-step?
Other than other Chinese stuff like Bagua and Xingyin. No, I did boxing a little bit. Okay. At one point, our gyms, because our gym bounced around the city for a while. There was a boxing coach right before our class. We just ran a space at a gym, and he was poke boxing. The instructor was Terry Poke.
Oh, okay.
And he was a really cool dude. He was an older guy. He was like in his 60s at the time, because he's passed away since. But he was a great guy, and he just saw me being a young kid who just sitting there and waiting for a class, and he would just let me jump in his sessions for free. I would just jump in and just do the training, but I didn't take it super serious, because I was doing my stuff. But other than that, no. I wrestled a little bit in high school, but I rented when I had my own kung fu school. And I owned our own building, right?
Was it Kung Fu Fitness?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And when we had it, I was renting out to everyone, because I realized that the way to make money at owning a kung fu school was renting space to other martial artists, than trying to gouge the price for your students. And so I just started renting to everyone, because I was like, I have all this mat space here, and it's just not being used half the time. So I just started renting out to like a a Chinese dance class, and whoever wanted the space really. And Wing Chun class was there, so the girl I was kind of seeing at the time, she wanted to try it out. I was like, well, let's just go to one of the classes, and I tried it. But at that point, I was already a Shifu and 8 step, and they're Southern Chinese martial art, so a lot of the philosophies are opposite, and it was really hard for me to like get in the groove. Even though I was really trying, I was honestly trying my best to do what they're asking, but at that time, I had 15 years of training in my
Right, and so
in
all that discipline is kind of
yeah.
hard to. Yeah, I guess I can imagine that. It's pretty wild. That's crazy. It's so interesting, man. Like I feel like you're more Asian than I am. Like seriously. But so all right, so let's talk about your music stuff because we went on for martial arts for a while just because I love it and I know you love it. But so how like what's your music stuff all about? How did you get into like heavy metal and stuff like that, man?
Well, I got into like music, I guess, when I was like really young. You know, my mom and my dad both are music people. My mom got me into you know, like the rock stuff, like Zeppelin, Sabbath, Kiss. Like her favorite band was when she was young was Kiss and Sabbath. She like when she was 15, she like hitchhiked to New York to see Kiss, you know, type stuff. So it was already in my blood, I guess. My uncle, her brother, like he got me into Metallica and like Guns N' Roses when I was really young. And that my dad, you know, he was into like the old country type stuff, and then like New Orleans music, like the Meters and Dr. John. Basically the Mardi Gras music you hear in, you know, when you go to see Mardi Gras or whatever. And my mom also was into like Motown and stuff, and she got me into like stuff like Marvin Gaye and stuff like that. So I was just all over the place with music, and it just as I got older, I just started finding my own stuff, and I got into like heavier stuff and punk bands like Black Flag and Minor Threat and all that stuff, and it just um it just kind of kept evolving, you know. And by the time I was 15, you know, music was being like the thing that was keeping me together with a lot of stuff. Everyone goes through their own like stuff in high school, you know.
Yeah, that
And
angst.
yeah, and my dad was a total bag, you know. So I had a lot of anger towards him that I didn't know where to put it, and I hadn't had martial arts yet. So music was my first savior to kind of gear me towards like some type of like normalcy and not be like just some weirdo, you know. And so I just got really into music, and it saved my life in a lot of ways. It was kind of my therapist for a lot of stuff, like most people who get into it real heavy are. And um, by the time I was like 16, 17, I was like, this is what I want to do for a living. You know, this is my dream. So I just never let go of that dream. You know, I just held on to it, and I tried a couple times, and I failed, and I saw that like maybe I should do this a different way. And I'm not the most spiritual person, but I do like see like patterns and things, and I feel like everything I've done up until this point has kind of prepared the gears for where we're at now with the music. Because I took it like because if you know me from here, like you know I was in the band Throwing Blood for a while with my buddy Steve, and that band had potential, but we're just too young and dumb. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We didn't really understand what business was, and that's where a lot of bands fail. They don't understand business. They don't understand how hard it is to actually be in a band. And when people hear this a lot. Well, better stick to your day job. It's a tough road.
I
What
hate
makes
that.
it a tough road? Like, why is it a tough road? Why is this so hard? Because I looked at it now, especially, I look at it as any other kind of business, and as long as you look at it that kind of way, it's not unrealistic. Um, but it takes a lot of effort that people don't realize. And so, anyways, that's kind of it. You know, like when the kung fu school shut down, Taco Bell bought us out, and my shifu moved to Virginia to because he had some personal stuff going on with the employer he was working at here in town, and he got offered a better gig. He moved to Virginia, and I was just kind of lost living in this apartment with no power and walking around with no car, trying to figure out what the hell I'm gonna do next. And rent was still coming due, but I had no job, and I was like, probably one of the hardest times in my life at that moment. And I wrote the first album that is now Kamikaze Zombie's first album. I wrote it.
Kamikaze Zombie is your current band,
Current
correct?
band, yeah. And I wrote the first album with an electric guitar with no amp in the living room of this apartment with no power, just to get this emotion off. And I had no lyrics to it or anything, just guitar parts. And then we fast forward, driving down the road one day, and I was like, you know what? Everything I've ever done in my life, I've achieved up to this point to where I'm satisfied. You know, like I've always wanted to be a martial arts instructor. I'm a martial arts instructor. I always want to learn Chinese. I've always wanted to learn the language, Chinese language. I can speak fluent Mandarin. I always wanted to, be a massage therapist. I'm a massage therapist. But the one thing I've wanted more than anything is music. And so I was like, I should just go for it. What's stopping me? The only thing stopping me is me.
Right. 100%.
So I call up some like-minded friends, and we started practicing and turning to Kamikaze Zombie. And that band has been really great to me. And like my wife, when I met her, I told her, I said, I'm in a full-time band. Don't make me choose between you or the band. You won't like the answer. Yeah. And she's been the most supportive person in the group next to myself and Steve, my guitar player. And we've had a revolving door of members, but me and him don't let go of the rope, and we just keep going no matter what. And I have a philosophy in that band that I just tell everyone: the KZ train doesn't stop for anyone. If you want to get off, you can get off, but we're going to keep going. And that's just the way it is. And been going strong now for 5 years. We have we've had a revolving door of members when it comes to drums and bass. The lineup we have right now is probably my personal favorite lineup we've had so far. There's been some members in the past that I really loved, but they had to, I don't ever force someone to stay there. I had to do like a Band Biz 101 segment on YouTube too, and in that one thing I say, it's like, if you have a band member who doesn't want to be there, the worst thing to do is try to force them into staying, because all it's doing is making it harder on the other members who really want to be there. And especially if they're not wanting to be there for certain reasons, like if they don't want to financially support the band, if they don't want to tour, and if they're not meeting the same goals that you're wanting to achieve, then there's that discourse, and there's no point in trying to force it. It just makes unnecessary drama. Just find people who want to be there, And so anytime someone wants out, I don't ever yell at them or get mad or hold anything against them. I understand this is a hard job. I understand that touring really sucks, and people don't understand how hard touring really is until you actually do it. And I don't hold any kind of anger towards anyone. I just let them go, and I find someone else who wants to be there. And the lineup we have right now is fantastic. Everyone's super talented, and we have. I played guitar up until about a year or two ago. I played guitar and did vocals, but I realized I wasn't giving enough of a interaction with the crowd. I felt like our stage show was kind of bland. I felt like it was cool, but it wasn't badass. And I thought, it's missing that front man. It's missing that person to get in people's faces and rally the crowd.
Like i.e. Philip and Selma.
Yeah, you got to rally the crowd, and so I felt like the guitar is hindering me from doing that, because you can't really say, come on guys, let's see, put your hands up when you're trying to play this crazy riff. So our buddy Adam, who's our guitar player, who's second guitar now, is the only person in our band that's played second guitar other than myself in this band. So there's only been 3 guitar players: myself, Steve, and now Adam. But as far as bass and drums, we've had like 10 drummers and like 7 bass players, some crazy number like that. But yeah, we just keep going.
What? So in other words, you have another guitarist and you just do vocals.
Just do vocals.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's helped.
So have you found like your stage presence that you feel like is gonna grab the crowd's attention and stuff like that?
Yeah. Like I started out as a vocalist with Throwing a Blood. I was just solely vocalist, and the only reason I play guitar and vocals in Kamikaze Zombie was when I first started, I wrote all the riffs, and I wasn't for sure I was gonna have another guitar player until Steve and I started talking, and then Steve was wanting to do it, so I was like, well, do it too, But honestly, at the time when we first started, I was really nervous of giving up that reign, just insecurities in myself, and not wanting the music to change. I really had a very specific vision for the band, and I really had a very specific sound. And I was afraid that if someone else was writing the riffs or playing the guitar, it would sound the way that I heard it, my vision, you know. But now, you know, Steve and I are so much on the same page. Like the dude and I think almost identical. I trust everything he writes, so I don't have that worry anymore. So I was just like, you know what, Steve's got this. He's a far better guitar player than I am, and why am I being so like resistant towards something? You know, so I just let it go, and it was one of the most freeing things I've ever done in my life. And so I let it go, and I just started really focusing on being the front man that I know I can be, and really crowding the crowds. And the first time we did it, we did it at one of our bigger shows. We were opening for the Black Dahlia Murder, and it was our second time opening for these guys, and I wanted to really make an impression because it was Black Dahlia Murder and Traitors was the show, and so I said, you know what, I'm gonna do vocals, just vocals this show, and everybody's like, are you sure this is the first show we want to try this train wreck? Because our guitar parts are our two-part guitar parts, you know. But we tried it and we did it, and it went off great. After the set, people were coming up to us and complimenting us, saying it's the best set they ever seen us do. And we knew at that moment, like, that was the set we should have, or the way we should do it, and we just haven't looked back.
So what kind of band? I know it's obviously like heavy metal, right? But is there because I know there's certain like different genres of heavy metal. So what would you classify Kamikaze Zombie as?
Well, I coined my own term. I call this horror crossover, because we're kind of it started off as a punk band.
I can kind of hear that the punk vibe in the music.
And originally, I wanted it to be more on the lines of like Black Flag and like Minor Threat,
hardcore punk.
Yeah. Than you know what we are now. But as the guitar, art is an expression, right? It's just like martial arts. It's an expression of yourself. So I don't like to hinder what comes out or like filter what comes out. Just let it come out and do its thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to put any kind of like limitations on what I can write. So as the music was coming out, it was getting a little more heavier, more metal. Yes, because I do like a lot of the heavier stuff like black metal and stuff, and so it just started kind of going in that realm. So I thought we were a crossover band, you know, because we do have those hardcore punky parts, but we also have like the thrashy metal parts. And I was like, but we have a horror movie theme that goes over the whole thing, like a sci-fi horror movie, kind of weird.
And that's the lyrics
quirky.
That you write.
Yeah, the lyrics
based on that.
Our samples, the artwork, all that stuff is you know, horror movie type stuff. Comic books, you know, all that weird, quirky, nerdy stuff that I got into that I really like, that I don't get to talk about much. So I put all that into the lyrics and all the imagery and stuff. Like we have a Judge Dredd T-shirt, you know, all that kind of all that weird stuff, you know. But
that's so cool. So what would you say? Because people that are like metalheads, would you consider yourself a metalhead?
Yeah.
Also, I got to ask this question. Why does all the metalheads now, there's this certain look? They're these big guys with tats, shaved heads, and beards. What is that? Is that some kind of thing? Like, what's it used to be long hair, and now it's like the shaved head, beards.
I don't know. Like, for me personally, like, if I could have hair, nature took its toll on myself, right?
Okay.
So for me personally, I didn't want to have like this. I hate the Dr. Phil look.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, I don't know why guys like just keep that. Just shave your head.
Just shave it, dude. But I feel weird without a beard, because if it's just shaved, I feel like I'm the dude from American History X. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I feel very like, you know, even though the beard doesn't help much, but like
a Viking. You look like a Viking.
Yeah. But it works. I pull it off, I guess. And I read this thing one time that says, you know, you grow into the person you're supposed to be. And so I feel like this is my look now.
The thing I love it is like the stigma of like the general person who just stereotypes people. They would see you and you're like a big husky guy, you know, you're beefy, and you got the shaved head and the beard and the tats all over. They're like, oh my gosh, that he's scary, he's dangerous. Don't mess with him. But you're awesome. You're like a real cool, soft-spoken, intellectual person. So I just want people to know, if anybody's watching this, that's like, oh, that guy, he's yeah. I showed a picture of myself once to somebody, a friend of mine, and it was when I had a mohawk when I was going through my punk rock days, and I had like the just shaved head mohawk, and I was wearing a Black Flag shirt, and she was like, "Oh, Mitchell, you look like you were lost during that time." I was like, "Lost? What are you talking about? I had a mohawk. It was
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
why would you say like I'm still the same guy? I just don't have a
Yeah.
mohawk now."
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just this weird stigma that like guys that fit your bill are these menacing, mean, violent types. And it's not true. It's just really, in fact, most of the like people that I know, some like friends that I have that are like metalheads and they're into this like heavy, dark, aggressive music. There's like some of the nicest dudes and
Every
people
time.
I've ever freaking met.
Yeah.
And so, what what would you say to people that say that your music is it's evil, it's bad, it's Satan?
Well, with our stuff, I'd probably say you're probably on the right foot, because but I write everything in metaphors. So if you read it from just surface lyrics, I do have Satan written all through the lyrics, but I use them as an antagonist because he's the ultimate antagonist.
My
right?
my Christian friends are probably watching this and they're like, "Oh, Mitchell, why would you have somebody like that on your show?"
But no, I use them as
I'm sorry.
but I use them as an antagonist, right? So, like for example, there's a song called 1226, which is kind of a weird song. I wrote it in New York when I was in New York with my wife. We go to New York. We go to New York every year for Christmas.
Your wife's from New York?
No, we just go there for just
Oh, okay. Dude,
to get away.
That's
That's
excellent.
just our thing.
What part of New York do you go to?
We go to like Manhattan. We usually stay in Hell's Kitchen or whatever. But anyways, we're sitting there in 1226. We wrote that song. It's about the Red Army and Mao Zedong and all the when they marched through China and destroyed all the four olds and all that stuff. And so I talk about Satan a lot in the song, but I'm referring to Mao Zedong. But I didn't want to say Mao Zedong because we're not a political band. We're a horror movie band. So to get those type of issues across, but still keep the image that we are, and be able to sing these songs every single night and have some kind of meaning behind them, I have to somehow write them, like where they're like this is what you read if you just read it, but this is what it really is if you really look into it, type stuff. And I do it with every single song. So none of the songs are what you think they are, but I don't ever tell anyone what they actually are. Like 1226 though is Mao Zedong's birthday, and I actually wrote it on 1226 on his birthday. I didn't really even know his birthday till I looked it up online. I was like, holy shit. And then I realized what day it was, and I was like, well, that's the name of the song.
You want to hear something to blow your mind real quick? My birthday is 12/26.
That's crazy.
I'm evil.
That's crazy. But yeah, no, that's that was Mao Zedong's birthday, so that's what the song's about. But that's crazy though. Yeah.
Yeah. So, is heavy metal and like heavier, aggressive, dark music is kind of your thing? But what about like, do you go lighter? Do you do jazz? Do you do blues? Do you even do any pop, like stuff like that? Is that outside of your taste?
When I'm at home hanging out, I listen to all kinds of stuff. But as far as like playing my own music, I don't really do anything other than the heavy stuff. Not that I wouldn't want to. I just
like if you could do any other music besides like the metal that you're doing now, what would you do? What would it be? Like if you had to pick another one?
people would be really surprised. I'd do hip hop.
For real?
Yeah.
I like it.
Because I'm really into like rap and stuff. Like I grew up in Lipscomb, when I was a kid, all until like I was 15, and so I listened to a lot of hip hop.
You grew up with all the original OGs from the '90s, like
Tupac
and
Biggie, Dre, all that stuff.
Bone Thugs.
Yeah, Bone Thugs and Harmony is my favorite group.
Yeah, they're good, dude. They're super
and so,
good.
I listen to all that stuff too, and in the New Orleans stuff, I listen to the Meters, I listen to Dr. John, which is a lot of funk, and when I'm cooking, like one of my like hobbies I like to do on my spare time is like cooking. I love to cook, so I'll get in the kitchen and put on like Dr. John or Marvin Gaye or Bob Marley, something chill, and just go to cooking, but yeah, like just music. I'm just a music lover, just all across the board. Like I don't really, the only things I don't like is pop music where it's because I love pop music. Like I would consider Genesis a pop band. I love Michael Jackson, I love Madonna, stuff like that. But I just don't like it when it's really overly corrected. Like you tell it's auto-tuned, you can tell it's pitch corrected. It's just really fake, But I feel that way with metal bands too. Though I'm not just have a bias towards pop bands. I call metal bands that do that. I call them pop metal bands. Like when like you can tell they sit down the metronome and the guitar riffs and everything's sucked out and the vocalist is in this booth and there's no rawness to there's no emotion being conveyed at all, and they're just going through the motions of what a metal band should sound like. I just hate that stuff.
Do you know any bands that do that? You want to call them out?
Nah, I do know a few.
Doesn't want to call them out,
but I don't want to
come after them.
Yeah.
You know, I made a joke earlier that you look like, not that you look, but I made a joke that you're Kirk from Crowbar.
Yeah.
But when I first encountered you like years ago, and this is before you were all beefy like you are now, you're real skinny, or not real skinny, but you're skinnier, and you had long hair, no beard.
Yeah.
I thought, and I remember telling my friend Jason, and our mutual friend Billy, I was like, he reminds me of Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains. Yeah, for real. I was like, because you had long, straight blonde hair.
Yeah.
And you just, I don't know. I was like, oh, it's Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains, ladies and gentlemen. There he is.
Yep. But now I'm
Alabama.
Now I'm turning to Kurt Winstein, which is weird because we opened for Crowbar.
You're opening for Crowbar?
We've opened for him a few times.
Oh, get out of here.
Before, this is a funny story. Before I stopped playing guitar, I bought an Ibanez Iceman, Paul Stanley custom version, right? At Guitar Center. One day I was just walking in and like, White Zombie has been my favorite band since I was a kid. Jay Younger was the reason I started playing guitar. And so he played Icemans, you know. So I saw this guitar and I was like, holy shit, I got to get this guitar. And normally those guitars ran for $2,000 and they had it on sale for $700 because it was used or whatever. I called my wife and I was like, hey dude, I'm about to spend a boatload of money, but don't ask any questions.
I love how you call your wife dude in this story.
And she's like, she always gets on me for that because I'm always like, hey dude,
what up, bro?
She's like, I'm not your bro. And I'm like, sorry, it's just the way I talk.
That's excellent.
But no, I bought the guitar, and we fast forward to this Crowbar show, and Kurt is standing there with his wife, who is Kurt is standing there with his wife, who is standing beside my wife, who is selling merch on the same table. Okay. And I'm losing my inside. Outside, I'm trying to look confident.
Right.
But inside, man. I'm like, holy shit, open up for Crowbar. Because we had, when our band started off, we just hit the ground running. We played 3 small shows, and then we started opening for bigger acts. Our first act, our 4th show was we opened up for Decapitated. And then from that point on, it's just been insanely like fast. But anyways, we opened for Crowbar. I was bugging the promoter who was booking that show.
Where was this, by the way?
It was at the Syndicate Lounge in Birmingham. And I was bugging the living crap out of the promoter. I was like, anytime you get Crowbar, man, anytime you get Crowbar, we want to open for these guys. So Crowbar comes through town. We get to open for him. I'm losing my shit. So I get my guitar and I go out into the lounge area to practice because I was about to go on. Kurt sees my guitar and he goes, hey man, let me play your guitar quick.
I love the imitation. It's perfect.
And I was like, what? Like, I was like, so like, oh my God, right?
Like you turned red.
Yeah. And so he comes over and he starts looking at my guitar and he's like, man, I'm a huge Kiss fan. You know, I love Kiss. Let me check out your He's checking out my guitar and he's like, this is badass. And then he's like, hold on a second. He puts the guitar on. He's like playing it and he walks across the thing with my guitar. And I'm like, where are you going? Right? So I go over to where he's at and he's like talking to his wife. He's like, check out the guitar. It's badass, you know? And he pulls out his cell phone and starts calling his guitar guy. He's like, I gotta have a guitar like this. He starts reading off my serial numbers off the back of my guitar.
Wow.
So then he's like, hey, I don't ever do this, but would you be cool with me playing your like the last song of the set? And I was like, right, you can play my last song of the set,
right?
Because I grew up on Crowbar. They're one of my biggest influences. And so I was like, this is like a dream come true. I didn't even want to play the guitar after he touched it, you know? And so he played it. Well, he went on stage with it and he tried to tune it, but I didn't know anything at the time. I didn't know anything about intonating guitars. I didn't know it was even a thing to intonate your guitar. But we were playing in B sharp, the same tuning they were played in, but he couldn't get it to tune to his preciseness that he wanted because it wasn't intonated. So he didn't play. He was like, here, man, I can't play your it's not intonated. But
what does intonated mean? What is that?
It's a way of tuning your guitar. I'm not a guitar nerd, so I don't really know much about it, but it's something doing with like making the guitar being able to tune to itself or something. I don't know. You go to the 12th fret. I just get my producer to do it. But anyways, like, um, but yeah, no, like, Kurt bought that guitar. His wife got him the guitar. Now he plays that same exact guitar. And Paul Stanley custom had it's the Mirror Man, so it came with all these like extra like frills with like extra mirrors and all this really goofy like Kiss stuff on it. So Kurt took off the same pick plate. He took off everything I took off. So his guitar looks just like my guitar. So now, before I quit playing guitar, people come up to me and go, "Hey man, I love your Kurt Winstein guitar." And I'm like, "Man, that's my guitar." You know, like, but
That's sad. He should like he should say something. He should like did y'all exchange information? Does he have like your Facebook
no,
or
no. I mean, we are friends on Facebook, but you know, it's just like he's like way here and we're way here. But I don't play guitar anymore. But it was a pretty funny moment where it was like people were coming up to me all the time, being like, "Dude, that Kurt Winstein guitar is so awesome."
That's crazy, dude. That's so awesome. Like I can imagine. Have you and you've met Philip and Selma before too, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How was that?
The first time I met him was weird.
Philip and Selma is the lead singer of the very popular heavy metal band from the '90s, Pantera. They went to #1, like the only metal band ever go #1 on the Billboard
Yeah.
charts. That's who that is. Just in case you're wondering. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I've met him a few times, and we've gotten lucky. Our band's played with his other two bands a few times. I've opened.
That dude's
for,
got so many freaking bands.
Yeah, I've
It's
opened
insane.
for Superjoint, and we've opened for him when he came through as the Illegals. And the first time I met him, my buddy Sean, he's the lead singer of the band Childbite, who's signed to the House Girl Records. He also does our artwork for our band, and he's a talented dude. He does all kinds of, but he's a really cool guy, and he runs this festival. Him and his wife, where they ran a festival called Berserker Fest, and so I was like, hey man, I kept bugging the because I really wanted to meet Phil. So he called me up. He was like, hey man, they're doing a meet and greet, for people who buy the extra thing. So if you get your ass up here early, you meet him or whatever. So I was like, cool. So I bust up there and we meet Phil, and I'm hanging out with the dude, and I didn't want to be one of those guys that just fanboy all over him. So I try to play it cool.
Yeah.
And I knew we had a lot in common because he likes football, the Saints, same team I like. Both have a lot of the New Orleans. We both have a lot of we both in martial arts and boxing and stuff like that, and horror movies. So I was like, me and this have a lot in common. I'm just gonna talk to him like a normal dude and not like try to fanboy all over him. So I walk up to him and I'm like, hey man, what do you think about the Saints this year? And he goes on this straight like, Saints are awesome, blah blah blah. He starts going like hardcore. But the thing is, while he's talking about the Saints, all his friends, all the other band members are like trying to shake my hand. I don't want to be rude, so I'm trying to shake their hand, but I'm also trying to talk to Phil. And you can see in his face that he was being frustrated at me because I wasn't paying him the attention that I should be paying.
No.
Because like I should be like this,
Sure, yeah.
but I'm over here like, yeah, man, how's it going? I'm trying my best to.
But you know what? That's their fault. They should be like, oh, he's talking to it. Even if it wasn't Phil, just anybody. Like you're talking to somebody else. Like just wait for a second.
Yeah,
He's
it's all
talking to somebody.
So the first time I met him was kind of awkward because I felt like I was kind of disrespecting him, not intentionally, but and I also could tell he was kind of like the day just started for him. He was just kind of like not really feeling the meet because he had a whole meet and greet about to start, and we just kind of shoot in, before everybody got there. And so, anyways, but then we got to meet him like in a more of a intimate setting when we played shows with him. And the best time I met him was this last time when we opened up for the Illegals. We had just loaded all of our gear into the van, and he came out of his bus to get ready to go on stage. And he goes, "How you guys doing tonight?" And we're like, "We're doing great." He goes, "You guys are awesome." And he gave us daps and he walked in to play a show. And for me, that was just like a stamp of approval, to have him tell us that we're good, like, is, I was like, that's all I really need to hear. We can just keep going.
And then also, I bet like going on stage after that, after like one of your, I'm assuming, musical idols growing up told you that, then you're going on stage just hyped. You got adrenaline, you're feeling good, you're feeling confident.
Yeah, because we were on tour for that. That show happened in the middle of our tour. So we came from Chicago to Birmingham just to play that show. Then we left out the next day to go Florida or somewhere. I can't remember where we went from there. No, we went to Kentucky the next day. So we just played that. We just came just to play that show, and the rest of our tour we're just like
That's fantastic, dude. You're living such a cool life, bro.
Trying,
You should feel really happy. I know that you
trying.
told me earlier when we were talking that, because of everything going on this year with the COVID and all that,
Yeah.
like it's kind of put a little bit of a damper on you touring and getting the music stuff out there. So how are you bouncing back from that? Like, what are you doing in its stead without being able to tour and whatnot?
Yeah, the touring and not playing shows has been really a killer for us. And a working band, you're forgotten really quickly unless you're like in their face every single day. And
Especially in this time and age,
yeah,
people are so ADD about stuff.
so hard. And so like we don't have like the music representatives like we did back in the 80s and 90s where they have like PR guys like pushing your stuff hardcore. Right. So you'd push all that stuff yourself. And touring is really the biggest way to get your name out there. And we had this 30-day run that was going to be the biggest run of our career. That to this point we're playing with Childlight, we're playing with Days Today, we're playing with Propane. We were doing the whole West Coast, so we're starting it. We were going to start in Memphis and work our way all the way, play everything from all the way to Washington State, all the way down Interstate 5 and back across the desert. And to have that swept out from under us really sucked. So what we're doing now is just really trying our best to just stay afloat as a band. We still try to do band practice, even though it's hard to stay motivated when you don't see a goal or a show in the horizon. Steve and I have been trying to write a lot. We felt like I keep telling him, I'm like, dude, if we don't have something come out of this downtime, it's just a waste of time. So he and I have been just writing a lot, trying to get a new album. And try to do as much stuff like this and as much media as we can to just keep our names in everyone's ear. We only have 2 albums out, so like, and so out of the 2 albums is 19 songs, and collectively that's an hour worth of listening. So it's easy to get bored with our stuff, I guess. If you're a big fan and you're listening to us on like Spotify, an hour later you're like done with our whole discography. And so we're trying to get some more music out. We're trying to get some maybe. I wanted to do a covers album, but the rest of the band doesn't feel comfortable doing covers. So
Why is that? Why do they want to do covers?
they don't feel like unless you do a cover like creatively, right? It's just you're just regurgitating what's already been done, and so they don't want to. They don't want to do anything unless we can really put our spin on it. And then, but then there's some apprehension of not liking the way they sound. Like some of the band members aren't really confident in pulling off certain songs so that we would want to do them justice. So sure. Like, so it's just like if we can't do it right, then why do it? So we're just kind of trying to write our own stuff. Trying to stay as relevant as possible. There's a show coming up July 11th in Georgia. It's a festival that we put off 3 times. The last time we canceled on them because we just felt like it was too dangerous to go out with the COVID stuff, especially since myself and our drummer Gary both have asthma. We're just too high risk. But we're going to try it this time, and we've took a lot of precautions and prepared ourselves for the COVID thing. What we're going to do is we're just going to stay in our van until time to go on stage, and then we're going straight from the van to the stage, play the show, and then go from the stage to the van and leave. And we're not going to socialize with anyone. And if anyone wants to buy our merch, they can buy it online. And that way we can play the show, but we're not having to, subject ourselves to potentially getting sick.
So, you told me that you're married, obviously, and you've got a really cool wife who supports you, supports your love and your passion, your fuel for music. How did you meet her, and what's her musical tastes?
Well, she's a total dork. I met her we worked at the same massage therapy place.
Oh, so she's a massage therapist. Okay, cool.
That's how we met. And
did you give each other massages?
We did a little bit, and then now she thinks we should get one every single birthday.
Oh, I see.
But she no, we met through the massage therapy world. And when we first met, she was very green to a lot of stuff, and me and her lived very different lives growing up as kids. And
Opposites attract, though, right?
Yeah, and like we're 100% the Lady and the Tramp type
Okay.
type couple, and she not that she grew up in like from like a upper class household, but she just was very, I hate the word, use the word naive, but I guess naive to a lot of things, and not really. Her world wasn't very exposed, and she had never heard, crowbar or goat whore or any of that stuff. So
That's a lot of people, unfortunately.
yeah, she was really into show tunes. That was what she was
I
into.
love it.
And but now she's totally into the metal stuff. Like she it hooked her in. Our first date, outside of Alabama, I took her to New Orleans. I was like, you got to come to New Orleans. I got to show you the other part of me.
Did you go to the French Quarter and all that stuff?
Yeah, we did, and I took her to the House of Blues, and we saw Crowbar and Goat Whore, and that was her first introduction to music. And I was like, well, if she likes this, then we're good. And after the
That's
show,
an easy transition, because
Yeah.
they're slow and mellow, and well, crowbar.
yeah, and then she came out of the show like she had never been in a pit before. We got right down the front, and she was like, she came out of the show like, holy, it's the coolest crap ever. And it was just after that, she went to Guar with me 3 times and all this crazy stuff. And,
I didn't even know Guar was
Yeah.
still around.
Yeah.
They're still doing
yeah,
stuff.
and she's been to all these different shows with me, and she's awesome.
That's awesome, dude. That's you got a heck of a catch then there.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, she's a total winner, man. Like one day I was laying in bed and I just told her why music was so important to me. I just felt like I owed my entire life to music because I felt like it gave me so much when I was younger, and just to give back at all would be just, I felt like that's what I need to do. And she's like, well, then you need to do it and don't quit. And there's been times where this band has been financially like a noose for me personally. It's not really much of a secret that I financially backed the band. Like the band's basically being funded by the Bank of Me, and so that can get very taxing. There's been times where we didn't have power at our house because it was like, pay on our studio time in the studio or pay our power bills, so let's just not go without power. I have a wife that's that supportive to let me do something like that and not be upset and not complain and not just be unnecessarily like ass.
Yeah, I mean that's beautiful, dude.
Yeah.
It really is. Like some people are like, "Oh, you need to give that crap up, and get a nice 9 to 5, work 40 hours, get his benefits." Blah. And it's just like I don't like that mentality, right? This is like a society's mentality, right? And like a true artist, like somebody who wants to like do what they want to do in life, sometimes you got to suffer for the things that you love the most. And then in the end, you find salvation from it.
Right, and you gotta be able to take risk and stuff.
Yeah, 100%. No risk, no reward.
And but you can take what's called calculated risk, right?
Right.
And so like with me, so I knew I wanted to do the band. So first thing was, how can I sustain myself as a person, be able to pay my bills and be able to eat and not go to starving to death, but still be able to do this music thing and still have the freedom to be able to tour and stuff. So massage therapy turned out to be a blessing in disguise because you work your own hours. So when I work Massage Envy, I work 10 hours a day of massage hours, and I'll do that every single day. And some days I'll work 7 days a week, so 70 hours in a week. And I'll do that all the way up to tour, and then I won't work for a month. But all my bills are paid up in advance. I pay all of our rent, all of our stuff up like before we even go on tour. And then one of the things that I learned as far as on the business end of music is one of the biggest reasons a lot of people quit. Like one of the biggest deterrents for artists is going on the road and coming back home with no money. It's really hard to justify that, to your spouse, especially if you're married. It's hard to justify that to your spouse or whoever. So I decided that because we had this diva drummer for a minute who didn't want to stay. We sleep in the van. We have like our van's tricked out with bunks, but he didn't want to sleep in the van. He wanted to sleep in a hotel every night. And so I was paying for these hotel rooms for a 2-week tour or a 3-week tour, and there's 2 hotels a night. So by the end of the the run it's like $1,800 of hotel fare, sometimes more. And just thinking to myself, I was like, we let this drummer go. Got a drummer who would want to sleep in the van. I could then pay out the people um, out of pocket. I could pay out what I was paying these hotels. I could pay out the band some money so that they come home with some money in their pocket. So that now they have a real job. It's not hurting me any because I've already factored that money into my spending. So I ran it by my wife. She thought that's a great idea. So what I do now, it's not for everybody, but what I do is I pay all the band members out, like straight up. I pay them a week's worth of like work, and it's a solid paycheck, um, and I pay them their weekly pay for however many weeks we're on the road, and then the agreement is I get the door and the money from merch because I do screen printing as well, and I do all the screen printing for the shirts and stuff. So I take the money for the merch and the door, and it works out perfect for everybody because I'm making enough money to where I'm not starving on tour. I'm paying for the gas for us to get to venue. The band's getting paid, and I still have enough money coming out from merch to be able to buy more merch and repeat the cycle. So it works out for everybody because I'm not really in it for the money anyways. I'm in it for I just want to get kicked in the teeth as hard as I can with music because my biggest influence in the whole world is Henry Rollins. Like he's been my influence since I was a kid.
Love Henry
And
Rollins.
I just have that same ethic. I just want to get kicked in the teeth and just I like to be punished. I have this weird thing where I just like the harder it is and the more it sucks, the better I like it. And so money isn't a thing for me. I don't know why. It's just I always look at it. Money's a tool, and you use it to get what the things you want.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. Clint, we're going to wrap this up, but I usually ask people towards the end. I had somebody who was like, oh, it's the wrestling stars. Like, shouldn't you start out with like asking like people what they wrestle with and stuff? But the thing that's interesting about having a conversation with another human being is that like once you're talking to somebody, especially talking to them about the things they love and the things they're passionate about, the things they believe in, you find out what they're wrestling with, like in that just by default.
Right.
But I'll ask you specifically, what is like one of the biggest struggles that you have in your life right now? Maybe it's what you just said, and you can just elaborate a little bit more on that. And how do you beat it, man?
Um, I don't know. There's a lot of things.
And also, what helps you get through this struggle? I don't know what your religious background is, or what you believe in, or if it's just the music, or it's your family or your wife. But what do you use? What's your platform?
I wish I knew honestly. I've been atheist since I was 10 years old, so I have no real like spiritual thing. I just have this unkillable drive to succeed, no matter the costs.
And that's
And
with anything in life.
it's
Kinda?
with anything, and it's like if I'm like a dog with a bone. Once I get that bone, you can't get my away from me. I'm stuck on it. And I guess the biggest struggle I'm having right now would just be with this COVID stuff, personally and with the band, and trying to get this screen printing company that I started to do just for myself, but now it's starting to turn into a business, and I see that as a way to make money through COVID. So I'm just trying to push this screen printing company and just trying to keep our band afloat without sinking like a lot of businesses have right now.
So would you say like one of your biggest struggles is just that people depending on you and you trying to like make it through for them as well as yourself, or
With the band, yeah, because they do depend on me a lot. But yeah, just trying to stay afloat and for myself and for them, for my wife, everybody. Yeah, just trying to keep it all together because everybody's having a tough time with this, and it just with all the social issues that are going on right now, I feel like some people are just being insanely selfish, and they're not looking at it through other people's eyes and past their own nose. And I feel like if they just thought about like their actions past themselves, how it could affect someone else and someone else down the line, someone else down the line, and not be such a dick, just look after everybody, because everybody's going through hardships, and so yeah.
it's I said this on the last episode in the episode. I'll say it every single episode until like I've burnt like driven it into the ground. The thing that we lack especially in this country, but even just as general human beings, is perspective. Like, we're
Yes.
just not putting ourselves in other people's shoes. We're not really this is why I try to like make friends with everybody from every walk of life. Like when I was growing up, man, I didn't see race, or I wasn't not friends with somebody because they were this political party or because they didn't go to the same church I went to or whatever. Like this doesn't matter. If you were interesting, you were cool. Like I wanted to be friends with you, and also you offered something different. You're like a different person, and you gave a different perspective. So it like helps you understand people. You know what I mean? Like when you can kind of like, I don't know, you just kind of see. This is why I really want to travel the world one day. This is one of my goals because I want to see the world, but I also want to like get in like adventure and meet people and understand different cultures. To like, I'm multicultural to a little bit because of like my mom, and that's, I think that's really helped me with not stereotyping and being discriminating against other people for whatever the reason. Just because I've watched my mom as a foreigner in this country struggle because of the kind of person that she's, because she's from another land, and she's ignorant to the society, and people are ignorant to her. And so perspective is, it's gold, man. It's way worth, way more its weight in gold. Like it's just, you really got to just step outside of yourself sometimes and really like kind of think about like, I don't know, like what somebody else could be going through. And I think it's really important, for us to like just kind of to grow as human beings, you know. But man, it's been such a pleasure having you on here, dude. I really like, you got to come back on here because there's still way too much content, dude. You're a very interesting guy. There's way more stuff I want to talk to you about. But I want you to go ahead and plug in, man. Tell people how they can find your music, your merchandise. If you're still doing massages, like where they can find you, like any of that stuff. Just plug in. Go
Cool.
ahead.
So yeah, so for the band, kamikazezombieband.com, get you where you need to go. Just follow the tabs. If you want to do all the social media stuff, they're all linked to our website. We have a merch store that I spent months building online. I learned all this HTML coding, but kamikazezombie.com for the music. You can check us out on Spotify, check us out on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Amazon Prime, any streaming service you have, we're on there. Massage therapy, I'm not really doing that right now. If I do, I'll be at Massage Envy in Hoover. And martial arts, I have two guys who've been with me for a little over 10 years, and they are teaching all my classes right now at Lakeview Personal Fitness on 4th Avenue South in Birmingham.
Sweet. Clint, such a pleasure, dude. Oh, before we go out, I want you to say thank you so much for watching the Wrestling Diaries, everyone, in Mandarin. Can you do that? Thank you for watching the Wrestling Diaries, everyone.
I don't know how to say wrestling in Chinese.
Okay. Well, just say thank you for watching them, if you can.
谢谢大家好，我的谢想。
I don't know what he said, but it's still awesome. Dude, I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for being here. Peace.